an integral perspective and approach. Before we start the session, as usual, let's just step back for a few moments of silence. So greetings to you all. Welcome. Now, before I hand over to Manoj, I'd just like to say a few words about the hosts, NAMAH, the Journal of Integral Health, because NAMAH isn't just engaged in running workshops, courses, and programs. It's a long-standing and insightful publication available in print or as an e-journal. So NAMAH is the Journal of Integral Health, and it looks at the influence of the soul or the spirit in man's search for health and well-being. And it examines man's physical and mental health in an integral way. It looks at it in terms of his growth and spiritual progress, as everything is always interlinked. It looks at individual and social health from the perspective of the evolutionary process. So it's a vast field, and the range of material we publish is really very diverse. But the one common feature behind it all is the influence of the soul on our health and its influence on the rest of our being. So NAMAH is published quarterly and available online for subscription in either format, print or as an e-journal. So I definitely recommend you have a look and give it a trial. Put a post up with the group so you can follow it up. So yeah, that's it really. Now Manoj Pavithran, very happy to have him with us again. Is someone that has collaborated with us very many times, and we're always happy to have him. He has a very poetic atmosphere. He's an integral yoga practitioner and educator, and he was drawn to Aurobindo in 1989 and eventually joined Aurobindo. He's an Aurobillian in 1995. A co-founder of the Purnam Center for Integrality in Aurobindo, he offers transformative courses and has created his own film series, Evolution Fast Forward, and authored a book also, Pilgrims of the Infinite. So very much looking forward to this session, and it's the dance of emotional stability. Okay, so over to you, Manoj.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. It will be lovely to see all of you, in case if you can turn on the videos, because then that conversation, there is a connection. When there is a face, it really helps to engage. Thank you, Satyajit, Pankaj, Camilla. Thank you, Sridevi. The topic, what I want to explore today, the dance of emotional stability. First of all, there is a growing instability, emotional instability in people, particularly among millennials and Gen Z. Emotional imbalances become more and more volatile. And I come across more and more people who are quite unstable emotionally, huge mood swings. And COVID and post-COVID, it has only increased. And mental health, it is reaching a point of mental health disorder spreading across the world. As we can see, World Health Organization has already made mental health as a top priority. And mood swing is one of the very commonly visible challenges everywhere. And how to deal with it? How do we, first of all, find emotional stability? So from emotional instability to emotional stability is already a journey. In that journey, there are many pathways and stages. From very negative stability, where you numb all the emotions, to a very positive stability where you are able to dance with emotions, like a dancer, like a singer, like a theater artist, who can enter deep into any emotion and express it, and express fine nuances, and enjoy thoroughly the emotional depth, richness. And this is one of the fundamental things about life. The richness of our experience of living is very much woven into our ability to open to emotions. And when the emotions are shunned, our ability to enjoy is also compromised. And many spiritual traditions do tend to make it very dry, ascetic. And in the process, the whole dimension of joy and delight get wiped out. And in integral yoga, we look at vital as the, I'm sure all of you by now probably is familiar with the term. How many of you are familiar with integral yoga? So okay, thank you. So I don't have to go into primary level vocabulary. Others, I have no idea. I have only names. So the vital being and the vital is really the very fundamental instinct of the vital is the will to delight. Vital brings this natural will to delight. The Ananda dimension expresses itself deeply and profoundly through the vital. And vital being having the three layers, of which the topmost layer, what we refer to as the higher vital, the emotional being, is the one that can open to emotions and richness of emotions. But the difficulty of the vital is it can degenerate very easily. The will to delight degenerates and become desire, craving. And that's where it starts falling into path of degeneration. So it's important to understand the process of degeneration, to reverse it, to find the anchor where we can find the stable ground. If you look at our common experience of love, emotional being, the finest emotion it can experience is love. That's one of the finest experiences we can have. But when there is love, with it comes intimacy, attachment. And when it is space of attachment, we still glorify it as beautiful. I'm so attached to you. That's treated as a sign of love. I call you every day. You should call me every day. I want to know. I get anxious if you're not around. All that. But the truth is, love has already degenerated. It has become attachment. And from attachment comes all other related challenges. First of all, insecurity of losing the one who is so close to you, so dear to you. So from there, anxiety. Or it can become jealousy. And when these forms of degeneration enters, relationships tend to become more and more control-oriented. How to possess the other person, control the other person. And naturally, love is already lost. It's a space of bondage. And from there, conflict and likings and disliking and the strong emotional aversions and breakups and all that happens. And it's very, very common to find a strong attraction. And that's one of the intensity of emotion. There is deep attraction that comes with it. And with it, the attachment. And then all this degeneration that happens. And eventually, what was love become anger, hatred. And people repeat the cycle. We can't really handle even a drop of love. The joy of love. Even happiness cannot be contained, so people have to laugh it out loudly. A wave of happiness entering is sufficient for the nervous excitement and loud laughter because it's elevating your energy. You can contain it. So it has to be thrown out as laughter. So how do we receive the flow of joy, ananda, without excitement, so that it can last longer and longer? Or how do we enter into the radiance of love, which doesn't degenerate into cruder forms, and it expands the heart and widens the heart? Also, how do we hold space for someone who is going through the mood swing, where one day they are heights of excited happiness. Now I found all the solutions to my problems on the top of the world. Next day, they swing into depression. And how do you hold space for someone who is swinging? And if you are leading a team, in your team, when there is people who are emotionally unstable, who are way too sensitive, swings, because it affects the whole team, because it is an energy that enters into the dynamics of the group. And in a world that has become increasingly volatile, emotionally unstable, this is a growing challenge everywhere, in every field. Relationships are becoming more and more short-lived, more and more spikes of happiness, inability to hold. So in that, the question of, first of all, how to open the heart. Before opening, we need to find how it gets closed and how it becomes numb. In children, it's pretty much open. They are open to the flow of emotions. They express all the emotions freely. Their anger, their happiness, their sorrow, there is no issue. They're absolutely free. They thrive on their emotions. We also thrive on our emotions when we go to theater and watch movies. We go there because it is putting us in touch with our emotions, which otherwise we cannot experience. There is a safe space to experience pain, heroism, romance, laughter, sorrow, even to shed tears watching a movie. There is rasa behind it. There is enjoyment behind it. And this is where Indian aesthetic theory developed long ago, the rasa theory, the navarasas, the 9 tastes of emotions, the 9 emotions of Indian aesthetics become very, very important. And the fact that all of them are thoroughly enjoyable. And that's the reason why people go for even horror movies. Even behind horror, there is ananda. Behind sorrow, there is delight. Behind the fear, there is delight. Not just romance and heroism, but the whole spectrum of emotions. So the films, the movies, the theater, the dancer, they all utilize these emotions and create a safe space for people to experience deep, rich emotions. That's one of their functions. And that's the reason also why art, music, poetry, these are really the methods of purifying the heart, opening the heart, giving it the experience of the sublime, beautiful, refined emotions. And when our media itself become polarized and intense, dramatic, theatrical, as you can see, you read titles of news and any of the YouTube videos, you will see the dramatized versions of the title writing, as if you don't watch it, you're going to miss something profound in your life. The way the movies are edited with the rapid cut and keeping you on the edge, pushing your emotions to the limits. They really stir up emotions. But how do we enter into an emotional space without swinging with a stable ground? And prior to that, first of all, how does a child growing up, born and who was free with all the emotional expressions, how does that get locked up? How does the emotional being gets denied in the process of growing up? One of the fundamental reason is our very education system itself doesn't deal with, there is no education for the heart. There is only education for the mind, information training. There is no emotional training. there is no refinement of emotions. How to approach emotions, how do you open to emotions, how do you express emotions, how do you explore emotions of different nuances of emotions. So when there is no education for it, naturally this finds its education through the social media. And social media is creating a false identity, a fake identity, with its dopamine doses, liked by so many people, and dependency on external validation and losing connection with oneself. And that's one of the fundamental reasons the millennials and Gen Z are very deeply emotionally volatile, because there is a huge dependency on external validation to be liked by people. And everyone is putting up the fancy profiles. An increasingly fake identity. And living in that fake state, creating the disconnect. And eventually when they come out of the universities and engage with the world, hit the reality, then you fall into huge mood swings. So insomnia, anxiety, panic attack. Even before coming to the office, you're overwhelmed. That's a sign. You have not even started working, but you're overwhelmed because emotions are locked up and built up. And there isn't enough space where emotions can be expressed. Because even family spaces, since there is an absence of education for emotions, very few families have healthy emotional environment. Usually, people end up with a lot of drama. When the emotions burst out, it comes out as drama. And when I work with young people, often they come because they find they are confused, they're lost in life, they need a direction for life. They don't know which career to follow, or the current path is not working for them. But as you go deeper, then you see that, okay, they just had a breakup. Then you dive deeper and you see that they have already gone through many breakups. Then you dive deeper, then you discover problems with the relationship with father, mother, or some or other childhood challenges, where your emotions get increasingly locked up. You get wounded, and you have no way to release it, heal it. And the education system is not providing any support. The UGC has recently, this year, created a cell for mental education in all higher education institutions, because this has become a widespread problem. Absence of education for the heart, neither within the families nor in the education institutions. So where do we go? And what internet provides is pornography freely. And relationships are getting reduced into superficial, transient, short-term, high-intensity connect, a spike, and people break up. Inability to relate at a deep level, and fear of commitment. Behind it is disconnection from oneself, one's own heart, one's own emotions, and inability to regulate emotions, emotional stability completely lacking. And many people shun the whole thing and rush and escape into rational intelligence and numb it. Very common among men. Very rational, very clear, very stable, but numb. Lack of emotional intelligence, lack of sensitivity, lack of understanding. And when you help people to come in touch with their emotion, this is one of the very first stage, that helping to come somebody in touch with their emotion. And emotions are not bad. Come in touch with it. And how do you hold space for emotions? Because once your emotional stream gets disconnected, so does your vitality go down. Your enthusiasm for life goes down. Your ability to enjoy life goes down. You can live like a machine, very efficient, very competent, very successful. And this issue, now very common. You shut out emotions, compete and become successful, ruthlessly successful, but entirely losing out on the tenderness, the richness of life, the rasa of life. So that space where an integral approach, first thing to establish is equality or equanimity, samatha. And for that, just like when we are watching a theater, a performance, a movie, we are separate, we are watching. There's an observer. So having that separation between the witness and the emotions that are rising, and holding space for emotions. Just like, how do you hold space for a dear friend who is in difficulty, who is not looking for a solution from you, but you just need someone who can simply listen? There is hardly people listening to each other. One of the most important things to do is listening. One is listening to others. Second is, are you listening to yourself? Holding space for your own heart to express. Just like a friend is unwinding. Just being a loving witness, holding space for your emotions to find expression, to feel and allow the feelings to emerge and express it, so that you're holding just like a stage for it to express and reveal its content, its disturbances, its deeper causes, its deeper anxieties. If we cannot give that space, then the heart cannot open. And often one of the mistakes that happen is, in the process of opening the heart and allowing the emotions to rise up, give expression to them. When we touch upon finer, beautiful emotions, we also confuse it for our soul, confusing the emotional being for the soul. Before we come in touch with that, there is a whole lot of pain and suffering that's coming from the past that will show up. That's the very reason why people avoid dealing with one's own heart, because you have to deal with the disappointments, with a lot of pain that you never processed. And that's not easy. So creating space in our own life to listen, or methodologies that can help, whether it is through journaling, painting, dance, music, art, whatsoever be the method that is working, but connecting with the emotions and richness of emotions. Just like it is possible in a movie to enter into an experience of pain and sorrow without being damaged by it, because we know it is a movie. You have a distance. You can enter into pain. We can enter into sorrow. We can enter into fear. We can enter into anxiety. That's what we do when we watch movies, when we watch theater. There is a certain safe space, even to watch tragedy, where you experience the pain, sorrow, and there is a catharsis. There is a healing that happens. The same way, to open to one's own pain, suffering, rejected feelings, wounds from the past. And as you dive deeper into it, you will also realize that it is intergenerational, transmitted from parents to children, generation after generation. And families are really like the containers that is carrying emotions from previous generations, pains from previous generations, experiences from previous generations, transmitted across. And we realize that we have inherited a lot of stuff. And these things will open up inevitably. If we want an integral transformation, then we need to open that entire heart space and have space for this thing to unfold. And to realize that this is not my personal pain, it is also my father's pain, my mother's pain, their grandparents' pain that is playing out itself through us. Corresponding sensations, corresponding behaviors, and to release them. And it is in that process the heart gets purified, widened, capable of receiving emotions, not just one's own, but also collective, also intergenerational. And the present generation, having so much awareness and so much volatility, it's critically important to recognize that this is not personal stuff anymore. It is the journey of generations. Collectively, humanity is awakening, and it is important that as new generation, the current generation who is self-aware, we need to heal that wounded heart and open to the flow of emotions. It is when the emotions flow like waters as the river widens, that's when our strength arises. Our creativity gets released. Our ability to enjoy life gets deeper. And art plays a profound role. All types of arts for the education of the heart, purification of the heart, aesthesis. Through that, we can refine and enter into increasingly sublime states of emotions. And if we look at Savitri, Aurobindo's Savitri, it contains such a rich and nuanced depths of emotions of all types, including horror, deepest horror possible. Aurobindo entering into the descending into the night, and the sorrow and the pain of the world opening up. And as a protagonist, holding all that pain within himself and bringing light into that, consciousness into that. Bringing mother's light into that space, who is Anandamayi, Chaitanyamayi, Satyamayi. Our true nature is of Ananda, but our lower nature is entangled and lost and tangled up in sorrow. And how do we open up And as individuals, when we open our heart without fear, and here we need courage, great courage, great faith. But again, there are many methods emerging in the world. They're also sometimes very dangerous in the name of addressing your shadow, addressing your repressed emotions. When you walk into these spaces without a connection with the higher consciousness, without that light and force of a higher consciousness, when you enter into these spaces, they grip you and sweep you off the ground. And that is very dangerous. So the first condition to address them is to establish samatha, equality, equanimity, and widening, so that there is certain stillness, certain wideness, certain silence, and the higher force entering. With that, naturally, in the process of development, it opens up the heart, opens up the hidden, repressed, or suppressed stuff. And as we dive deeper into it, as we allow it to arise and release itself, that's when we discover that which is beyond personal, entering into collective, intergenerational, all that space. That profound healing that takes place within one's own heart. And we can see that Aurobindo illustrates that whole journey in Savitri. There is this profound, sublime, refined experience of love when Satyavan and Savitri are meeting in the conversations, tasting that finest emotions, entering into that space. Also entering into the descending into the night and encountering the dark, allowing all that to unfold, reveal, and release, but guided by the light, led by the light. And then it is safe to open up. And when we open ourselves to the process of yoga, it is inevitable that life creates circumstances where you are triggered. All that you did not want to face will be pulled out ruthlessly. That's one of the characteristics of integral yoga, that when the higher nature, the higher consciousness operates in the individual, it respects the individual's current state of evolution, but it utilizes the context of life. And it churns and churns and opens up your heart like a potter kneading the clay, so that your heart can be made more pliable, more flexible. And you may bleed, you may cry. But the master has a love that is almost cruel, like a craftsman shaping the clay. And when we allow, when we accept that this is the master's hand breaking open my heart so that a wider love can enter, and surrender to that process. And when there is sufficient detachment, you can see the intensity of experience without being swept off, and the transformation unfolding naturally and effortlessly. And tremendous courage is required. So on one hand, in ancient tantric language, there's a Shiva, who is the stable ground, and Shakti, who is the dancer. The two, the one who have become two, playing as he and she. And that play unfolds and opens up within ourselves, and establishing the stage of ability to witness the play allow the play to arise. And in that play, eventually holding space for the play to arise and having the courage to enter into the invitation of entering into a deeper, mysterious spaces and surrendering to the invitation and going into that space. That's where the transformation takes us into the dance of emotional stability. Stability is brought by the witness consciousness, the Shiva part of it, the Purusha part of like a stage. The dance is where the Prakriti is transformed into Shakti, and the Shakti reveals her dimension of Anandamaya, Chaitanyamaya, Satyamaya. And this is where really the I cannot say culmination, the entry into the mystery of the two-in-one, playing within you and in the world, and the profound depth of love that arises. Beauty, love, and delight. These are the three expressions of Ananda in life. Once we establish the perspective that everything is nothing but that divine consciousness, one being playing as many. Once we establish that mindset and open wide to all kinds of contacts of life that are stirring up, that are triggering, that are pounding our heart. And if you're willing and surrender, then the path and the journey become much easier and accelerated. And for that, engaging with life in its totality, in all its complexity, with all its entangled relationships that unfold all around us, and the most impossible characters who will walk into our lives, they become the representatives of the divine hand pounding the clay. And that chitta vritti of the heart, everything gets purified, purified emotions. And emotions get richer, deeper, sublime, nuanced, and freely flowing. That's when the rivers enter. Rivers of higher consciousness enter and flow through. And that process is available to us. Integral yoga is an invitation to that process, to open to the whole dimension of Ananda. From being a heart that was numbed by pain and sorrow of the world, to gradually opening it up and encountering its vulnerability and holding a space for that opening to happen. Having courage to enter into feeling and allowing that to unfold and reveal and release. However difficult it might sound, just like watching a movie. It may be a horror movie, it may be a tragedy, or it may be something ecstatic. Whatsoever be the rasas of life, just like seasons in nature, divine Shakti, her moods, divine moods. Sometimes she is ruthless, sometimes she is deeply compassionate. And we can see the journey of Savitri when she is to encounter her soul. The triple soul forces show up and their corresponding shadows. So individually walking into that heart space into the cave of the heart, experiencing the intensity, experiencing the richness, preparing the ground, opens to a possibility of a transformation that is priceless. And it is not a method of psychoanalysis. There is no analysis. It's directly knowledge by identity. You become the experience and you transcend your individuality. You enter into collective experience. You enter into intergenerational experience. You enter into humanity's experience. That's how we can heal individually and collectively and purify emotions and allow ourselves to become willing servitors of a greater process. And I would like to invite your sharing.
Thank you, Manoj. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Basically, what's the difference between the opposing emotional states of you, as you've just described, and bipolar? Is it just a matter of different extremes, or is it a different condition, or is it just an accentuation of
the degree of intensity of separation?
Degree, yeah.
Yeah, the two parts of being become polarized and disconnected, and it swings between the two. And that emerges in the process of actual transformation. And that's, in my hypothesis, that's also a reason why bipolarity is rapidly increasing in the world, because we are also collectively pushed to go beyond our normal range. And individually, when we try to make progress, for every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. And the forces that are hidden and scared of the change, they will rise up and corresponding emotions will show up and that will swing. So at a particular stage, these things show up in the individual in their growing up stages. So there is an inheritance from the family, from the context, but this gets triggered in the process of you are trying to make a leap. And then the subconscient, the buried stuff will show up. And then if you have not developed the inner connection, if you don't have stability, you get pushed into the extremes. And when you get pushed too far and the fracture is too deep, then that becomes very deeply problematic. You can't reconcile.
I see. Yeah, it's really all a matter of not establishing in a connection. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's the foundation of it.
Yeah, and like in integral perspective, we say equilibrium of the being, equilibrium of the emotional being. How do we hold space for emotional being to find its equilibrium? And the finest medicine is love.
Yeah.
So if you are holding space for someone, it is very easy to be triggered by the person, also to see the utter irrationality of the swing and the triggers and exaggerations. And we may tend to show them the irrationality of their arguments, justifications, holding on to this pole or that pole. That won't help, because the problem is not at the level of reason. It is in the subconscient. Whereas subconscient is pretty much, even the deeper layers are open to love. And ego is open to love. And there is a fragile ego that gets wounded very easily. Fragile surface personality that gets triggered very easily. But ego surrenders gladly to love, not to reason.
Mm. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Manoj. It was really very, very important subject. And there will be lots of questions on this. But I was wanting to ask also James. I mean, it would be great to organize a little more longer sessions with Manoj.
Yeah, he's a busy chap though, isn't he? You're
From
cutting
his
off.
perspective. Can you hear me?
Now I can, but I missed quite a lot of what you said before.
Yeah, no, I was wondering if it would be possible to organize a longer sessions with Manoj so that we can work with his ways to help us progress in this.
Yeah,
Because this is
well,
a very deep reality of our being, like this
yeah,
being thrown back into old emotions. When I'm thinking that I'm already maybe walking on the right path, and then these things come back to haunt. And it's good to know that it is maybe a way to progress, but it would be helpful to work further together with Manoj. Yes.
so that's what she
Thank you,
says,
Manoj, so much.
Manoj.
Thank you, James.
It's up to you. I'm
Yeah.
always open to do these
Yeah,
sessions,
all the
but
possibilities are there.
yeah, I'm
We are
always
also
open.
developing courses in relationship with all this, and we are doing it in the context of karma yoga. We have karma yoga as our key theme. All this a part of that journey,
Right.
and we are. It's inevitable. They all show up in the process of our transformation.
Yeah.
Individually and collectively, and world is heading for an increasing crisis in this space.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I?
Abhijit, please. Yes.
Yes. Profound gratitude for the wonderful, deliberations and guidance. Equality, you said equality and equanimity is important. If you can just elaborate about equality, equanimity, I can understand it's calm and composure, trying to identify oneself at all points of time. But what do you mean by equality here? Equality with oneself, equality with others. Yeah.
Yeah, there are many levels to it. First is our ability to take all contacts of life without reacting to it. Being equal to contacts of life. Life from all around is reaching out to us in many different ways. Many are painful, many are pleasant, unpleasant, and to be equal to all contacts. That is stage number one. And Sri Aurobindo refers to that as titiksha. Second stage is once you establish equality, then there is indifference, udasinata, that you are indifferent to the contacts of life. They come and go, but you are indifferent. Now, within indifference itself, there are gradations. A tamasic indifference, where you are coming into the traditionally what is referred to as a vairagya, that this is, I'm done with it. that is more of nature of tamas. Then there is rajasic udasinata or indifference, where you are stoic, holding your reins very tight. Then there is a sattvic udasinata, where it is in the light of reason that you establish equality, that all this is nothing but the molding process of the divine consciousness, and you come from the knowledge space.
Yes,
Then
but what's the difference between equality and equanimity? Is there a difference, or is one just another matter of degree? Or
good question. In fact, I do not know what exactly fine nuance we can say. Probably,
Yeah.
I'm just assuming equality could be more at the level of sensory contact with the world, at that level. And equanimity would be the inner poise, that one is on the meeting of the world.
yeah,
You are equal to all contacts.
yeah.
Other is the inner poise, equanimous. I'm just guessing and assuming how Aurobindo is differentiating between these two words.
I've never seen him differentiated, actually. For me, like equality is like something that's very static, and but
here
in equanimity, there is a reaction, but the poise is there for you to.
Yes, Aurobindo refers to this particularly. He says positive and negative equality. So
right.
in negative equality is where you have the titiksha and udasinata, all that. You develop, and eventually you become really detached into the witness poise fully. But it is still negative equality or equanimity. You still don't have the positive equality and equanimity, where the rasa is you are able to grasp the rasa and enjoy the rasa of contacts. This is where opening to all sensations, all emotions, everything is flowing through you. And there is a sama rasa, the equal enjoyment, sama ananda, equal delight in all contacts. He goes on to the extent of saying even a scorpion bite, he could translate and experience as ananda. That is more positive equality. Every contact is originally the contact of the divine with the divine, but since our instrumental layers are opaque and obscure, we translate it as pain. Sensory pain, emotional pain, all that. And as we refine the instrument and the higher consciousness is able to meet the higher, both sides, there is the experience of ananda. This is where it becomes the positive dimension of equality and equanimity. You have the ability to receive the delight of existence in all its flavors and see the all beautiful, even in the most ugly.
And can we go further in our understanding, like the more the ego, the more the difficulty.
Yes.
So if we can somehow reduce the ego, then the difficulty reduces. And secondly, what I think Aurobindo refers somewhere, it's an ignorance to think that, this progress will take time,
right.
To absorb the light and ananda. That's really time taking, many years of hard efforts. These are all ignorance, really.
Yeah.
It can also happen in a flush. Like in ancient traditions, we find like yogis, 10,000 years, 12,000 years, they are in tapasya and then they get blessings of a deity. But in these days, I think Aurobindo refers to it like it's an ignorance in the mind to always think that it will take time, really. It can be reduced if that mental block can be removed.
All three instrumental layers, the mind, the vital, the physical, all three are obscure. They cannot receive delight. So they have to be refined and they have to evolve so that they become receptacle, capable of receiving. At this point of our journey, we can receive some drops here and there. And that's all. And that too, we cannot hold, they fade away.
Which
And-
means it's needless. One should not think really that one has to go through the swings or through pains. You know, one may completely escape that. That's also a possibility.
If there is a proper education from the early childhood, where there is an education for the body, education for the mind, education for the heart, then yeah, this suffering can be minimized. It's not necessary. But what is happening is our youth are growing up without any proper training. And then you take on a path of transformation and you hit upon volcanic eruptions from within.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to you.
So, does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Okay, well, thank you very much, Manoj. As
Thank you.
poetic as ever. Thank you, Manoj. And until tomorrow, everyone, 5:30, and it's Dr. Sumitra Basu. So until then, see you all. And once again, thank you, Manoj, and see you all again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.